In this video, we are going to deploy our Flashloan smart contract to the Ethereum blockchain. For this, we will need to do three things. First, we will configure Truffle to connect to mainnet. Then we will create a migration file to tell Truffle how to deploy our Flashloan. And finally, we will run the migration command. First, we are going to configure Truffle, and for this we need to install an npm package. So in the root of your project, you're going to run this command. So with this package, we'll be able to add our private key to the deployment system of Truffle. So after we open our code editor and we go to Truffle config, and first we are going to load our secret into the environment of Node.js by using the .env package. So that's exactly the same thing as what we did before in the run arbitrage script, but we need to do it again because our arbitrage script and the deployment of the smart contract are two different things. Next, we need to import the package that we just installed. Next, we're gonna add a network for mainnet in the networks key here, so that will allow Truffle to deploy to mainnet. First, we're going to define a provider key, and this will allow Truffle to use our private key. So we define a function, and this is going to return an HD wallet provider. So first, we provide our private key, and then the infra URL, and then for the network ID, we need to specify one for mainnet. Okay, so we are done for the configuration file of Truffle. So next we need to create a migration file. So in the migration directory, we're going to create a new file. I'm going to call this Deploy Contracts, and we're going to copy paste from the initial migration of Truffle. So that's a migration file that is used internally by Truffle to deploy another smart contract. We can just ignore what's going on inside, but we can use it as a template. So we're going to replace all the instance of migration by Flashloan. Here it import our smart contract, and it export a function, and inside this function, that's where we need to deploy our smart contract. So actually, our smart contract has a constructor that accepts a couple of arguments. So in this case, you can provide this argument to the deploy function. And so we're going to go back to the Flashloan contract to remember what we need. So let's scroll up. And here we can see the different addresses that we need. The address of Kyber, Uniswap, Grab Ether, DAI, and the beneficiary address. So let me copy paste this. Okay, so first Uniswap. So how are we going to get this? In the addresses folder, we have all the addresses that we want. So we're going to import all the addresses from there. So there is a key called mainnet that is exported, but we rename this to addresses, and we import this from addresses folder that is one directory above. And when we do this, this is exactly the same thing as if we did this, but this is a shorthand notation. Okay, so now we have our addresses, so we can use this. So first Kyber network proxy, then Uniswap, this is the router, then Grab Ether, then DAI, and finally for the beneficiary address, this is something we can get from the argument of module export. So here there is one argument that we don't care about. This is the network, And then we have an array of addresses. So in our case, this array of addresses will just have one address. That's the address that we added before in truffle config. So with this private key. But here we could also have added an array of private key. And so in this case, we'll have had more than one address. So here we can destruct this. We're going to extract the first address. That's going to be the beneficiary address. And for the rest, we're going to match it in this variable. So we're just going to ignore it. And so here we put beneficiary address. All right. And let's delete this. And after you do this, you are ready to deploy your Flashloan smart contract. So of course, before deploying the smart contract, you need to make sure that you send some ether to the deploying address. So that's the address that is specified by the private key before. So the command is truffle migrate network mainnet and -- reset. So it's going to take a while because on mainnet transaction takes 15 seconds to mine, and there will be a couple of transactions. And I'm going to show you the output that you will get. So you don't need to do truffle develop. This is just something that I'm doing locally just to show you in this video. So after you run the deployment command, then you're going to see something like this, except that it's going to take more time. And here the important information is the transaction hash and the contract address. So make sure to store these two informations. They are not private, but they need to be stored somewhere. Okay, great. So we have deployed our smart contract to mainnet. So we're going to stop here. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how you can run your script 24/7 on a server.